The ACT Party leader, David Seymour, used an expletive, a good old-fashioned Anglo-Saxon expletive, as he ridiculed a New Zealand First candidate after he outlined the party's plan to buy back the country's power companies at their original sale price. Richard Prosser made the comments at a business conference in Wellington today. Later, New Zealand First leader Winston Peters said his MP had got the policy wrong, that shares would only be bought when they became available. Jacob McSweeney heard it all because he was at the conference.
New Zealand First state-owned enterprises spokesperson Richard Prosser didn't beat around the bush when he powered up his party's policy to a business audience today.
I'm going to start off by throwing a cat amongst the pigeons. It's the same one that I threw 3 years ago. In terms of the electricity market, we have a distinct policy to bring the major generation assets that were built by taxpayers over the previous decades back under a single state-owned, state-controlled umbrella. So that means if you've got shares in Contact, get rid of them now.
When the MPs from all parties had all had their turn, the audience were invited to ask questions. In stepped Tony Nagel, the General Manager of Corporate Affairs at electricity retailer and generator Mercury.
I have a question for Richard Prosser. You said that you were going to nationalise or renationalise the electricity companies. Just a very quick calculation in my head, allowing for the half of Contact, Mercury and Genesis that the government doesn't already own, and all of Contact, that would be around about 11 or 12 billion. So how are you going to fund that?
It was Richard Prosser's response that got the room laughing.
This is not going to be, write a cheque today and go try cash it tomorrow. These institutions will be purchased back at whatever they were sold for, and not more than that. We signalled that a couple of years ago. We did. We said that's what was going to happen.
The New Zealand First MP told the audience there were a variety of ways to buy the power companies back, such as using long-term infrastructure bonds. ACT leader David Seymour didn't pull any punches as he laid into Mr Prosser's comments.
To come and tell you that a stock trading at 5.85 is going to be nationalised at 3.10 and you better all sell it. Well, I realise that in a role such as mine, you're supposed to have a certain amount of decorum. But that makes me really angry. What a f***ing idiot. I mean, seriously, what an idiot. But that's actually the reality. And that's someone who can barely manage his own diet and exercise regime and thinks that he's going to be managing a ministerial post.
Labour ditched its NZ Power plan, which aimed to set up a single buyer for the country's power generation in 2015, after it failed to attract voters at the last election. The Green Party have also overhauled their proposal since 2014. MP Gareth Hughes says electricity prices are still too high and that needs to change.
In terms of electricity affordability, we've proposed recycling the dividends paid to the state to support those low-income houses with a winter energy payment. And then when it comes to finding more efficiencies in the electricity system, we've proposed greater cooperation amongst our 29 distribution monopolies, the alliance companies.
National's Energy and Resources spokesperson Judith Collins argues New Zealand's electricity market is solid. She said consumers spend 2.9% of average weekly spending on their power bill.
The electricity sector, by the way, is working really well, and that's backed up by the International Energy Agency, who just this year said that New Zealand is world-leading thanks to appropriately targeted government intervention.
But it was New Zealand First's policy that hogged the headlines today, forcing its leader Winston Peters to step in this afternoon and describe Mr Prosser's comments as a throwaway line. Mr Peters says the party is proposing to buy back the power companies by purchasing their shares when they become available. In Wellington for Checkpoint, Jacob McSweeney, aho.